Hello and God bless you. This is Ellen Mongan, and you are in for a treat today. This is Ellen Mongan from Wow Mom, and we have interesting people on the show, and sometimes we have people that are serious, and sometimes people that are really like theologians or book writers. This lady here, this is our new guest today, Mary Brothers. She does a lot. She does it all, and she's a unique character. And the reason I say that is her website and her magazine and probably her podcast is called bUnique. But she spells it in such a unique way that I want her to just introduce herself, and I'm going to read her bio after she does. Hey, Mary from Florida.
Hi, Ellen. Good to see you. Good to always be with you.
I know.
This is a copy of the way we spell it. It's bUneke. And if you notice, if you're watching rather than listening, you'll see the U is a capital letter. Everything else is lowercase. And that's because we want you, the reader, to feel like it's special and it's made just for you. We just decided to make it a unique, and it's a charity. So the magazine is part of the charity. We have other aspects of that we can get into if you want to.
I do. I do. She also wrote this favorite book that I'm going to read the bio too, but let's see. Can y'all see that? And it's such a unique book, Go with the Angels, and I have enjoyed it. I want to buy a copy of her newest book, which is also about angels, and she'll tell us a little bit about that as well. I'm going to read her bio, and I just started reading bios this year, and it's so nice because when you read the bio, you get to know the person a little more than you already do. I've known Mary about maybe, I don't know, when I was at Marathon the first time, I think. About 10 years. Oh, wait, see,
10 or 15 years.
Yeah, and I was enjoy her. We could get on the phone and we could talk, and then we have to really say to each other because someone's got to hang up. But I like what she's doing most now because she'll tell her story of why she got started doing what she does. And maybe you're listening today and this is your story too. Everyone has a purpose in life, something that God's calling just you to do. No one else has the same purpose. Do you remember Johnny Appleseed? He planted little seeds around the country and it grew into apple trees. And that's what Mary does. She goes around meeting people, but she's going to tell more. And I just love it because she's a free spirit in the way that I think is a great way to be. She never met a stranger. And she also always brings on a good show. So here we go. I can almost see this without my glasses. Mary Brothers is the founder and president of bUnique, as the editor-in-chief of bUnique magazine and the director of bUnique Radio, my favorite. She interviews remarkable people and works with writers, editors, photographers, filmmakers, podcasters, interns, and experts worldwide. Wow. See, that's that she never met a stranger. When she's not managing the administration side of the nonprofit, fundraising or mentoring others, she's painting or illustrating children's books. She is also working on several of her novels, fiction and nonfiction anthologies. I think that was the right word. I have my eyes off. I'm taking it. And scripts. The fourth of 8 children. Wow. Mary grew up in a small rural town in South Carolina, but it's near me. I'll tell us soon where it is, where she also raised 2 sons. She and her husband currently live in Florida after starting life together in Atlanta. See, she's Southern raised. I like that. I think it sounds like it. When they moved to Florida, Mary quickly joined the writers community. And I didn't know that was some. I should have done that too. And was deeply involved in the Space Coast Writing Guild and Florida Writers Association. She has founded her own private writers critique group, which has continued to be bi-monthly since 2009. Mary's first book, Go with the Angels, as I showed one more time. See, it covers me up, and I like that. I want the angels always before me. She has written that book and Go with the Angels, collection of her short stories about her own encounters with angels, as well as stories told to her by others. Her second book, I'm excited, is a children's book about angels that she illustrated with her imagination. That's all I like to do. Everything. I see it before me in my writing the same way. I see what I'm going to put down, kind of like I think, and then I go, oh, and then I say, oh, that's not supposed to be there. I like it. My dad used to call it charismatically. He used to play piano from ear. The book is called My Angel Book, and you can connect with Mary, and she'll tell you a couple other times through the show through bUnique.org or directly at authorandbrothers@gmail.com. Follow the author Mary Brothers on Twitter, on Instagram, and keep up with the upcoming books, including a special book about angels for children on Facebook. It's at with the angels? Is it Grow with the Angels? I can't-
Go with Angels book.
Go with angel. Like it better. Go forth, bear fruit, and she did. So Mary, tell us more. I just love that you're.
Well,
doing
I'll tell you how this process started for me. I mean, it took me 40 years to write Go with Angels. I started writing down stories as these encounters happened, and I realized what was going on. That, I mean, my sons had several near-death experiences that I tell about in the book. I don't make a big deal about them being near death, but they had some very close encounters with, you know, the veil. And my youngest one especially had many times where the highway patrolman would say he shouldn't have survived this accident. And so I just started writing them down because kind of like journaling. And I did this for years and years and years. And I was busy. I went to college late in life. I didn't go right out of high school. I went when my kids were older, and I put myself through school on an academic scholarship with by tutoring. And I was still working full time, and I had the two young boys at home, and I just did what I did, and I continued writing. I didn't think a lot about my books at that point in time. God had to let me grow before he was ready to release me.
I like that.
And I kind of feel like one of Dr. Jane Goodall, if you noticed, she's on the cover of our current bUnique magazine. And, you know, she's just an amazing person. She used to work, or I think she still does work with chimpanzees. And so she would get these injured animals and nurture them back to health and then release them back into the wild. And I feel like that's what God has done with me. He has gotten me to this point, and now he said, go, Mary, do your thing. So I was talking to a friend of mine who's a published author. She's got several books, and she asked me one day, she said, why haven't you written a book? I said, oh, I've written several. I've got lots of books. I said, I have about 4 children's books, and I have several collections of short stories. I've got 2 novels, and I've got a screenplay that I'm working on. I said, she said, why haven't you finished any of them? I said, I don't know. I stop it at some point, and I need to come back, and I need to let them simmer. Then I come back, and I look at them with fresh eyes.
Sure.
And she said, but it's time for you to write, you know, publish one, pick one and write it. And I said, well, I've actually got one that I've been working on really closely because, Ellen, I've had no fewer than 3 encounters with either angels or someone who's crossed over that has said, finish your book. See? And every time I say which book, they say, you know which book.
Wow. And someone's asked, the Lord nudging you? Is a nudge from the Lord?
No. I am so dense and so hard-headed. He stops nudging. He starts pulling out the 2x4 and starts banging me on the head with it. And the reason I say that is one day I was going to a friend's house. She is psychic, no doubt about it. She's intuitive. She doesn't like to say she's psychic. She likes to say she's intuitive.
And she's on the other, like, I'm a Christian, and for me, I just hear the Lord's voice. But some people, it has to line up with the Word of God. We know that because we're both. Mary was a Catholic growing up, right? And she's a Christian. You're a Christian, right?
Absolutely.
So I don't use those words.
Jesus and I are good friends.
Somebody people have push buttons. They use it. And I go, oh, okay. But I do like what you said. You said that he first, I want to say it this way, he first journeyed you along, right? And then he let you fly. I just wrote just a second before I came out, and I wrote down that our words can lift other people to flight, right?
Absolutely.
They can crash and burn like they can. So what are people saying? I just sent something on the face of what people are saying behind your back, and that you want them to be saying, man, I was so glad to see so-and-so because it just lifted my spirits up. And so maybe different ways that we use words, but I think we're on the same, because I was reading the book and I think we're mostly on the same page very well. I don't edit this. So, I don't edit my material. I go, okay. So I want to just say up front that if the words are a push button, you could write me at wowellen@yahoo.com, or you can write Mary. We'll tell yours later too, because we don't want word to like set people.
Exactly. I never want to do anything to bring
That's what I said.
anybody down. I always want to uplift and inspire.
Okay, so you are inspiring too.
So
Go.
I had an encounter while I was driving from my home to her home, which was an hour away.
Okay.
And I heard a voice that I remember so clearly. And we were talking before the show about how you identify a voice. I
Yeah.
guarantee you, Deacon Pat was in the room next door, and there were your sons were in there with them, and they were talking. You would be able to pick out your husband's voice and your son's voices. You would know which person was speaking. You don't have to see them.
That's right.
If you know someone, you know them.
That's
Well,
right.
I heard a voice from the past. I mean, a woman who had died years ago. She was a Catholic nun. She taught my children,
Oh,
and her name was Sister David. And she was a tiny little woman. She was she was so feisty and inspiring, and just a lovely human. And I heard her say, Mary, it's time for you to finish your book. And I'm like, whoa, what?
because you knew.
I was like, I didn't know you were riding with me, Sister David. She goes, oh, I go with you a lot of times.
That's so
And
sweet.
she said, but it's time to finish your book. I said, which book? She said, you know which book. I said, but it's not finished. I've got so many more stories. I want to. She said, stop adding to it. Just do it now. It's the perfect size. You can always write another book.
Oh, like a safe one. Yeah, that's good. It's good. I know
So-
that nuns have a way.
Yes, they do.
As you say, I'm picturing Sister Lucida, and she was tiny, but she was very powerful, like a small person with a authority to get everyone in the room to obey.
Exactly. And I even said that about her, that and because when I went to my friend's house, like I mentioned, she's intuitive. She said, Mary, somebody is here with you. And I said, I know that. She rode with me. And she said, is it Mother Teresa? I said, oh, no, it's not Mother Teresa. She said, but it's a nun, right? I said, yes, it's a nun. Her name is Sister David.
See?
And she said,
knowledge, really, in a way, it's like a word of knowledge that say in scripture, we all have different gifts. And sometimes you get sense this person's depressed. I just make a word of encouragement, or this person, it's a gift of the Holy Spirit, but we have to test every spirit. So in case you're listening and somebody you think, well, you need to test the spirits. It has to be according to the word of God. And what's more holy than saying, write the book after you've been praying about it for a long time.
Exactly. So I came home and I started laying the book out, getting it ready. And then I kind of, like people do, we forget, or we get sidelined. Something else is more important, but there is nothing more important than this book right now. I realize that. So another friend of mine called me one day, and I mentioned, she asked, why haven't you published your book yet? And I said, well, blah, blah. She said, stop giving me excuses. I know why you haven't published. You're just scared. I said, I am not. I said, because I am a God-fearing woman, and I know that there is nothing to be afraid of.
You're bold and strong. Yeah.
Yes. And she said, if you're not scared, then publish your book. She said, I challenge you to do, and she gave me a list of things to do that would get me on the road toward publishing.
Okay.
She said, I'm going to give you 2 weeks. Well, I had it done within 24 hours, the whole list.
That was very good. Very good.
That was the fire that I needed.
That's right. I have a friend, to be honest, for 1 second to interject, I have a friend named Judy Savosky. If she's listening today, she's supposed to write a book about a faithfulness shelf, which I have one in my home because of her inspiration. And I've written about it before. It's called The Faithfulness Shelf. And every time I feel the Lord saying it in my heart, like, encourage her, I do. And there is a timing, because look, 24 hours, presto, you're done. You know what I'm saying? That was the Lord. So,
Yes.
So
I got that. I finished my Go With Angels book, which, as you had mentioned, these are true stories about angelic encounters. These are a story, and there's a story to go with that cover too. I'll tell you that.
Okay.
There are 88 pages, so there's probably about 40 stories. I think some stories take 1 page, some take 2. There's 1 or 2 that are longer.
Nowadays, that's what people want to read. They want short podcasts, which mine are long. So if you're listening, mine are long, and they want short books. My book is long as well. The Minor Bible Studies, so I do that. But I think just a short bathroom read, they say, but you know.
That's what I call them, a bathroom book, because they fit on the back of the toilet. You can read it in one visit, and you know, if you want to read a little longer, extend your stay in the bathroom. I have a friend who thinks that's
The
fine.
best thing happened.
Well, bUnique is like that too. It's one of those little books that you can pick up. It's not very big. It's like six inches by 9 inches, which is about the size of Go With Angels. This is only 20 pages long. There are a couple of little short stories, and there's more on the website. And
So on the book, if you're listening today and you're sitting on a book, you haven't gotten it up in the open, get busy. You know, she's going to give you 2 weeks, you know, to get this done. But she's inspiring you. I hope to say that there's probably a book inside of everybody, Mary. Don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. I do. I agree. And even if you think you're not a good writer, there are ways to become better. And
right.
There are editors who can help you. There are writing mentors. And when you mentioned earlier that I work with people around the world, we have writers in 28 different countries that work on bUnique. And a lot of them say, I don't really know what to do, but I want to help. And so I look at their social media sometimes and I say, oh, you've written a wonderful inspirational post. Let me publish that. And once they become a published author in bUnique, they have the courage then to go on and do other things. And we do that also with our podcast. I mentor people with our podcast, and then they move on to create their own elsewhere. It's a win-win. Yes, absolutely.
One thing I did is I watched Mary. I'm not sure with what she was doing, and I see that God is blessing it. You know, give it should be given unto you, pressed down, shaken together, and overflowing. And that's what she's doing. It started out with the podcast, the magazine. It started with the magazine, Mary. Give your little.
It started out with a digital magazine.
Okay.
Then we started printing. Now we have an audio magazine. We're printing about 1,000 every 3 months. We've created internationally award-winning documentaries. We have 14 different shows on our podcast. I call it a radio show because each podcast is a different host. Now they're not all active now. Some people podcast for a while, then they moved on, but we still have them and they are there to listen to.
Tell us a little bit. I know you use Blog Talk Radio. Is that right, Mary? Where they go
Yes.
What do they go to catch one of your podcasts?
They just go to Blog Talk Radio and click on or look for bUnique Radio. See? And again, that's bUneke.
Okay, and it's the part about that's all about you.
The show is heard, Ellen, in 98 countries.
Wow.
And it's on more than 40 different platforms. So you can listen to it on iHeartRadio or Radio Public, iTunes, the FM podcast, I forget, Apple podcast. Whatever your favorite podcast platform is, you can usually hear bUnique on it.
Now it's bUnique. This is a silly question, but I'm one of the only few podcasters that does video because they don't even call it something different than a podcast. Like when I look at my co-host or whoever's on the show, I like to see them because otherwise I'd be talking and their lips are still moving. So I see Mary, know that if she's paused, I sometimes give a code like go like this, just a minute.
It does help because you have what they would call in poker a tell. When you're ready to start talking, I can see it in your face. You change your demeanor just slightly.
I love it. I like people that are alive though, Mary. I do. You know, I meet a lot of people in my life, even though I don't do the things you do. I go, what's new? They go, nothing. I go, oh, wow, something's always new. The sun comes up in the morning. God's creating a masterpiece with your life. Every day is important and counts. So I get excited about, that's why I do podcasts. Because the people that come on my show, a lot of times will suggest people or I'll meet them along the way or they'll write a book and I get excited and hear more about them. So I'm enjoying this, Mary. I wonder if you could tell them then you evolved from the magazine and then to the podcasting, and now you're doing events, right?
Yeah,
I can't-
yes, we have an event every 3 months.
Okay.
And you know what's so funny, Ellen? I call MetaFest my
Okay.
spiritual family reunion.
What's it like? I didn't read about that yet. What's Manifest like?
It's a way for us to bring together all the things that people have read about in bUnique, because one of the things that bUnique does is highlight other charities.
Okay.
So we invite charities to join us, and even if they can't be there in person, we have a special table where we put out their brochures so people can learn more about these various charities. They don't have to be based in our county, but most of them are.
And is it a nonprofit, Mary, or a charity?
It is nonprofit. It is.
Okay,
It is.
I don't know. I thought of doing that myself, being a nonprofit. I haven't gotten that far, but I'm following along. I haven't gotten that far yet. But it does. It helps. It helps people all over the world, or does it help? Like mine would help mothers, because my main ministry is moms and women that are being, helping raise the next generation, which we got.
Right.
So she's a mom as well. So what does yours help? What does your charity help? The magazine and the help to like
it helps us get attention for other charities.
That's very
and one of the things that my colleague and I like to say is, we're not putting men on the Mars. We're not rescuing kittens. We're not feeding the hungry or the homeless. And the reason that we started it this way, we wanted to create a literary magazine. We wanted to promote artists and musicians and writers and photographers. We also wanted to support a charity. So we said, well, we're going to pick a charity and donate some of our profits to this charity each month.
Okay.
Well, we got our list of charities that we wanted to support, narrowed it down to 150.
That's a lot.
Exactly. We couldn't choose one. We couldn't choose a dozen. So my husband actually suggested that we become a charity ourselves. And I looked at him and I laughed. I said, oh, that's so easy for you to say. He said, well, find out. And I started doing the research. I had no clue what I was doing, but I did the research into how to establish a not-for-profit. That's what I did. And the rest is kind of history.
Because, I give most of my stuff away for free. I usually do everything for free. So I'm kind of like, my husband used to say about me, Mary, your ministry is always costing money. And I know with you in the magazine that it's given away. It's not always, no one has to really take a subscription and get on the internet. I support her because I do believe in what she's doing. But I think it's like you give and it's given unto you again. Same scripture, but
yes, over and over and over, it comes back.
And tell me this, the screenplay, is that coming next because I know you did some kind of a.
Well, let me take a step back before I actually answer that question, because I have to tell you about, I want to tell you about how my angel book came about before I go into anything else.
See,
my niece, one of my nieces ordered, I think she ordered the very first copy. She and my son were two of the first ones that said, I want to support you. I want to pay for a copy. And I told my son, I'll give you one. He said, no, Mom, I'm buying your copy. He said, how often am I going to be able to say that I paid, I'm supporting my own mother. So I was talking to my niece and she said, I need you to send me another copy. I said, happy to. She said, my 3-year-old granddaughter keeps taking mine. I read it to her every night before she goes to bed, and she loves the stories. I said, well, they're not really stories for children. Some of them are about my kids when they were little and how angels interceded in their lives, but they're memories, and it's an adult book, because each story at the end of Go With Angels, it has like a parable almost. There's a lesson at the end of every story. And I've been told by many readers that that's what they love best. They love to read the story, but they don't want to just read my stories. They want to see how that story can apply to their life.
Very nice, like devotional.
Yes, it is. I
I'm-
actually have one person said that she uses my book as a daily devotional.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, that's
So
great.
I was talking to my niece and I went ahead and sent her a copy for her granddaughter. And she let me know as soon as she got it. She said she loves it because she walks around all the time. She says, look at my angel book, look at my angel book. And I inscribed it for her, so the 3-year-old, even though I knew she couldn't read, but it's hers. And that way she could give her grandmother back her book because the little girl was taking it. So she said, so what's next, Aunt Mary? And I said, oh, and I told her, I said, well, I've got several other short stories that I want to put into anthologies. I have one book that I want to create like a gift book with a hardback.
Ooh, that's
And
good.
it's going to be for grief. It's like a grief. It's all poems that I wrote over the course of my life.
Yeah.
About, sorrow and loss. So that was one of the next ones that I thought I would write. And I was telling her about that. I said, of course, I've got some children's books I've been sitting on for years, and I've got that and the other, and my screenplays. So she said, well, why don't you just put them in alphabetical order and choose them that way?
That's cute.
And I said, that's an excellent idea. And then I heard that voice that you and I both know as the voice of God.
You don't
Said, it was as audible as you are right now, Ellen. He said, I want you to write your next book about angels for children. And I'm like, oh, Stephanie, God just said he wants me to write a book about angels for children. And she said, great. I want one or two. And she said, I'll buy one.
I always like my own work. I read it and I go, I want one. I know. It encourages
and
me.
what you've seen online are just teasers. That's not the whole book.
No, very
I recently read the whole book to someone who said she wanted to buy several. And she said, could you just give me a glimpse into it? And I said, I could read the whole book if you wanted. And it doesn't take more than 10 minutes, I don't think, to read it. But I read it to her and she said, I want to order 10 right now. And the book isn't back from the printer yet. So these are pre-orders. Yes.
Mary, today is a full day, and I have like you and the podcast and my leadership team for the church. One's ministry is coming at 1:30. In the midst of getting ready to get on air, my cousin called, Norlene, and she's from New York. My mom's side of the family and my dad's in New York. And she's surprising us with a visit for mom at 4 o'clock. But the reason I say that is she just lost a mother, first of all, grief, and secondly is that my sister recently died, which is her cousin, my mom's daughter.
I'm so sorry to hear that.
No, she was young. She was like, I'm 69 and I feel fine, but was like 70. And so what you said is so pertinent with the grief, as well as with the fact of family, and also about God. Is Norlene shared the story with me. We all share God stories, and she shared stories.
Absolutely.
Lynn loved birds, and I can't remember what kind of bird she was sharing with me, but when Lynn died, this certain bird that her and Lynn had in common, my sister, because she's cousin, I didn't know about the bird, and came, and she just knew it was a sign from the Lord. We need hope in this world. Let's face it, the world is needing a lot of hope.
Yes.
Hope makes your faith float, and you can be alive then, instead of being like, yeah, if you're real, God, then whatever, but you can know that he's real. It says, if you seek him, you will find him. If you seek him with your whole heart. I'm like a walking Bible, Mary, you know that. But the thing is, you do have to seek him to find him. It's like, I tell this all the time. It's like a kid with hide and go seek, and they're like 3, and they're like hiding. And you say, well, I'm hide and go seek, Mom. And I go, sure, you hide. And they hide. They go, here I am, Mommy. And then God is like that too. He doesn't want to hide from you. He wants you to love him. He wants you to know how much he loves you too. And I hope from Mary's testimony, we're not done yet, but I hope you are getting some words of hope that you could cement in your soul and grow into the person God's called you to be in the area of purpose, and doing something that no one's done before. I mean, you have to, we had the whole time as I call it staycation, Mary. We're all put our little houses, remember?
Yes.
And we had to like sit there, and luckily Pat and I are really pretty much, I write and speak and pray, and he does preaches. So we're already in that position of being a little bit like contemplative and sitting there. And God poured in my soul to do the podcast. That's why I do the podcast. Is He's during
Exactly.
What's it called again? Pandemic. But I think I'll staycation. Everything he said, everything I say on your heart or put on your heart, that you get on the air and say it. And I said, okay, each day. And sometimes I don't get to do it. Some days it's my fault. I'm too busy, but I listen for the Lord in my prayer time, read my scripture, I read my devotionals, and I go, I know that God's on this. Like today, I'm going to speak. Yesterday was going to speak on the widow's mite. Put your 2 cents in, Mary. So I'm saying, like, she put her 2 cents in, she gave her all. And I was going to bring it to the fact of everyone wants to put their 2 cents in. It's good if you're giving your all, but if someone says something, you don't have to always put your 2 cents in on that. That's what I was going to do.
Exactly.
So you can put all your 2 cents in. It's the show's about you, but I just want to encourage them that we're not the only ones. There's many out.
What was so funny is I have written other books for children and been struggling to find an illustrator.
Okay.
I've asked several people, I've tried to hire them, and they said, well, let me try this. Let me see if I feel it. And I've gotten some amazing illustrations, but then they just disappear. They decide they don't want to do it anymore. And I'm finding out this is the case with a lot of children's book authors. Unless someone is really serious about it, you have to really struggle. So the funny thing, though, is when I started writing the book for children about angels, I was struggling to find the words. I worked on it for about 2 weeks, and I could not get the words to come.
Okay.
And so I sat down, like you said, in contemplative prayer. And I said, Lord, you told me to write a book about angels for children. Why are you hiding the words from me? Why are you preventing me from writing? And he said, as clearly as day, paint the pictures and the words will come.
Oh, I love that. That's very
and
good.
I will, let me see if I've got one here. I can show
She
you.
disappeared like God, but she's coming back.
Well,
there she is.
I started painting. This is when I started. It's not completed.
Oh, that's very cool.
It's not finished. It's just one that I started.
No, I like this. I didn't know you were an artist either, Mary. I think,
well, I told God, I said, I'm not a painter. He said, not that you know of.
That's right. It's coming from, you're coming, he says nothing's impossible with him. Nothing. And without him, you can't, you got to be in the vine. If he is the vine, you're the branches. You got to get yourself in a position where you can quiet your soul. Because it's hard to hear him in this noisy world. That's probably why you think you don't hear him. But if you're quiet your soul every day, it doesn't matter if it's, some people start with 5 minutes, Mary, but I'm an overachiever. I started with an hour with the Lord when I was young. I did. I'm an overachiever, but I didn't know. I was more like trying to find God, and he was trying to draw me close to him and love me. So I started with an hour and I read the scripture, then I put him into action. If it said, a blessed are the hungry man, a blessed are the good man who gives his bread to the poor. Then I buy bread. I was this dramatic. And I give the bread to some people I knew that didn't have much money. And now I learned to just my soul. And I say, Lord, what do you want me to do? Instead of going like, what should I do for God? I'm having him use me in a different way. Like, take my yoke learn from me. And I try to learn every day. But he'll have specific things, Mary, if you quiet your soul. Some days, no, because he doesn't overachiever. I mean, like I'm still in last week's lesson. But you do have to kind of be quiet. And if you fill your mind with a lot of stuff, or put your heart at rest in peace, because without peace, I even spent a lot of time here eliminating people that gave my soul unpeacefulness, like say they're argumentative, and I'm going like, isn't God good? And that you want to quiet your soul and feed your soul with people that are, a variety of people. Like she ministers to people around the world, but you want people that are going to kind of click with you. They don't have to just like you. I love the thing about this, different isn't always bad. Sometimes different is better, because you can learn something from everyone. And everyone learns from you. You don't have to all be alike. Like, look at Mary. She's got pink hair. I got yellow. Some people have black. And I mean, I could have salt and pepper if I wanted. Maybe I could have all white. But, I try to be myself, first of all. I know Mary does too. And that's one of the reasons I feel like bUnique started. Because you wanted a purpose to wake up to. Remember, you said on the phone to me one day. Absolutely. Yeah. To wake up to every morning. She was helping. She was doing a lot of things. And now she's doing what she feels is the perfect will of God for her life, because she's helping others. But she's helping others that she's guiding the ship. Kind of like you're the you are the captain of bUnique. You're the president.
Yeah.
It's your vision in a way. It's kind of like, this is what I've always wanted to do. And she's happiest. See, she's happy because she's in the will of God of doing what she feels is the right thing. Some people marry, they get a job and they go like this. I hate my job. I don't want to go to work. I never felt that way. Even as a mother of many children, I could wake up and go, yay, let's go. I got today. Mother Angelico, do you know her well? I love Mother Angelico. We love Mother Teresa too. She says she couldn't picture when she read the Bible, disciples ever waking up and saying, man, we got to serve Jesus today. We got to do something for him. No, they're filled with joy. So like a mass. So you have now a few minutes. We have like 5 minutes to kind of sum it up, and then we'll do our last words because I talk a lot. You didn't really listen.
I will tell you this, when on Christmas Day, my son called.
Okay.
And we were chatting, and I was catching up to what I was doing with my book. And he said, have you ever thought about, and I showed him the pictures like I just showed you that one. Nice. And he said, have you ever thought about using artificial intelligence to paint your pictures?
Am I like this? I like this. Well,
and I said, no, I haven't.
Okay.
So he told me how.
Okay. I don't know I don't know, but we're gonna stop here for commercial. And we're different isn't always bad. Sometimes different is better, and I learn from each other. But I would rather talk about your screenplay, because I've been sitting here for a long time listening and thinking, I want to hear this. I'm really, in my mind, I'm an actress. I think in my mind, I'm a movie star.
Okay. Well, my screenplay is I'm planning it to be an episodic. And nice. God willing, it'll be picked up by Netflix or Amazon or one of the streaming shows. It's based on, I say it's based on one true incident and several bad dates.
Oh, that's cute. This is funny.
It's really, it's kind of a romance, but it's more of a 12-step story. It's about some of the I'll give you the real action that prompted this.
Okay.
I got a message from a man that I had dated back years ago, probably at that time, probably about 15 years previous. Okay. I dated this man, and it didn't work out for me, so I moved on. And he sent me a Facebook message, and he told me that he would love to renew our relationship. And I said, well, I'm married right now. I'm not single anymore. And so I'm off the market. He said, well, I'm married too. That shouldn't affect anything.
Oh, Lord. Okay, then that's a no. Red flag.
That's a big no. That's a block you and don't ever come into my world again. And so I went and I told my husband what had happened.
Good for you.
And
good. Integrity.
Right away, I wanted him to know that this man had approached me. And Curtis said, okay, what are you going to do about it? I said, well, I've already blocked him. He said, you know what I think you should do? I think you should write a story about this.
Like, so supportive of you, Mary, your husband.
Like, oh, I'm going to write a story about this. That's going to be crazy. I went to bed that night.
This is hilarious.
I woke up the next morning and I couldn't stop writing.
Oh,
this is actually, I wrote a novel about this. So I've got the novel, and I took this to the far reaches. I had it printed out and I sent it out to about, I think, a dozen people. And I asked them to mark it up, and I sent them a postage paid envelope. Please send it back to me and let me know what you thought. And that most of them did. Some of them said, no, thank you. I send it back, but I don't want to work on this, because it's about sex addicts and sexual dysfunction.
Okay, that's bad.
It is bad, but it's also important, to get to help people understand what is going on.
Wow. Because there's a new movie I watched. I don't usually watch movies, Mary. It was called Maybe I Do. And it was, I
Oh.
usually hang up the movie if it's about adultery, because we know in this world we're living in is a little bit crazy, and that's a no-no for me.
Yes.
Pause. No. So it is about, it's a lot, it's rampant. And so I tried it with my writings, Mary. This is maybe what you're trying to say, is that I try to teach a lesson like you do in the books. And
Yes.
I wrote one, it's called, you can look it up, Mary, under Catholic Mom or Woman of Grace. It's called I'm a Stand-Up Gal. And it's a really good one. I hated to write it because I thought, this generation, mothers, train up your children in the way of the Lord. And when they get old, they won't depart.
Yes.
You have to do it the right way, or they're going to go the wrong way. They're not going to know when to pause. So that's my big finish line. Mary, I've enjoyed this. I hope you've enjoyed it too. There's no magic.
I have.
There's no magic wand in life. You have to listen. And then, like Mary said, do whatever he tells you. You have to test the spirits, because if it's something that's like, take a pause, that's not the right way. And I'm like, I've only been with Patrick, Mary, and I try really hard to help the moms see how important it is to pray for their spouses and marry the right person. But sometimes it doesn't happen. We know life happens. And as part of the journey, God has to always work everything out for the good if we're following him, we love him, as he promises. And Mary has journeyed a lot of different things, screenplays, she's doing books, now events, you got to share about magazines. And the road isn't always, like, at least in my life, the road isn't always just right to heaven. It's like we go down winding ways, and we have plateaus, and then there's mountains, and we rejoice and think life is grand. And sometimes we have sorrows. I lost my baby Zachary, and this year my sister and my aunt. Because those are things that we go through. We're human, and we never do it perfectly, right? I never. So I like this about Mary. She gets out of the boat and she walks on the water. She gets out of the boat. She says, I don't know how you're going to do this, Lord, but I'm going to sit down here. You should go to the beach and write. That's the best. I wrote one book of the beach. You sit down and you say, Lord, here I am. And then he says, this is my word today. Ready? This is the other thing I was going to talk about on my little 5-minute podcast. If you want to walk on the water, you have to travel light. You have to get rid of sin, and put more of God in. Because the more you're patient and kind and good, and I don't know, long suffering is one of the fruits, the more we can stand with Jesus and say, I went through a really hard time and I want to help others. Mary brings joy to the world. She brings joy in her writing, and we don't agree on everything. As you see the podcast, I don't edit it. My husband veto the some, but I think it was a good podcast. I've enjoyed you again. And we were in Merritt Island, and that's where I met Mary. And I'll tell my friends in Merritt Island and Vieira about your upcoming things. So please send me like a flyer, because I connect with a lot of the Florida people, Mary, and they may want to come to it's open to the public, your thing.
Manifest is open to the public. That's April 22nd. It's going to be at Merritt Island Square Mall.
I know that place well.
And I'm also on March 25th, which is a Saturday, I'm having a book signing. I'll be giving away selling copies of Go With Angels. And if the printer works quickly enough, I'll have copies of my angel book there too.
And see, God has a work especially for her, and he has one for you too. So Mary, we got you could say your last sum up the show, because that was our 5-minute towards the finish line. And now sum up your show. You want to say your email, how they contact you, where they can buy the book, and how much you are listing every day at his feet. That's like I take
the easiest way is to actually reach out to me at bUnique, because all of my books, I give a portion of my proceeds of all my sales back to bUnique.
See,
that's my way of paying it forward and paying it backwards.
That's
so
right.
just
and she's
email Mary.
She's a giver. I have a daughter in charity, you know that. I have a daughter.
Yes.
So it's her own charity, but I'm not making that silly, but we both do that because we know, because when you give of yourself, and she started out really not expecting, she just said, for me, when I met her, she said, I'm doing this magazine, and it takes donations at first, but I think subscribe to it, right? Mary, subscribe.
Yes.
Help her out, because then she'll help others out. So Mary, your closure is unique.
You just email me at Mary@bUnique, and that's bUneke.org. And I'll hold it up one more time. So if anybody's watching, they can see that.
I know we forgot to tell about the cover. Was that the reason the cover was because a little girl? I don't want to leave anything out.
my son, when he was driving, these stories are in the book. I would, like most mothers, say, be careful, bye son, get in the car, be careful. And he, after, I don't know, a couple of weeks of me doing that, he stopped and got back out, and he came and he looked down at me. He said, Mom, do you really think I'm going to be deliberately careless? I said, no, I don't. He said, well, why would you say be careful to me? And I did something that my mother taught me to do years ago.
Okay.
Wherever my hand happens to be, if I'm holding hands or if it's down at my side or on my shoulder, I make a little cross to call for Jesus.
To go with it.
So I just make a little tiny cross. Nobody has to see it, but that's my way of saying, Jesus, I need your help. Because I didn't know what to say to my son. And out of my mouth came the words, go with God and drive with angels. And he said, oh, I like that.
I like it too. I like it a lot.
So when he joined the Navy, I would end every gift box, every care package, every card, every email, every letter I sent him with go with God and sail with angels. And if you can hold the book up again, you'll see there's an angel and a sailor on that. And there's a wave coming up, and the angel is coming up out of the wave. My son found a figurine of that angel and sailor. That was why I said, I'm not going to close my closet, because that angel is right there in that closet.
Oh, so nice.
Should have thought to go get it and bring it down.
Yes,
but
next time.
He gave that to me. And I knew that whenever I started working on this book, that Go with Angels would have to be the title. And my husband helped me take the photograph of that statuette down at the beach where there was nothing in the way, no obstacles. And then my friend Jennifer, who also works on bUnique, helped me turn it into a work of art.
Before we do close, I was my closing, but you say, who else works on bUnique? Because that's very important to me. Jennifer, wasn't it Jennifer I met? And she had the vision to do that thing downtown in Melbourne. Who else name all the people on your staff or on your friendship list?
Well, we are 100% volunteer run. Nobody for the last 5 years has gotten a penny out of this. We're doing it out of the love of our heart. Yes, we're a real charity. We're a charity case. But Jennifer East is one of my co-founders. Lynn Kinnison is the other co-founder. And they worked with me to raise enough money so that we could start doing all the things that we had to do to create this organization and to create the magazine. And I have a woman named Elisa who does a podcast on Tuesday nights, a man named Tony who does podcasting and he does filming. And then we have oodles of other volunteers that come to the events. And I want to say, if anybody is looking for a volunteer opportunity and they want to work with us, reach out to me at bUnique.org and just say, I want to volunteer, and I'll find you.
She knows where I am. In my prayer room. So Mary, I have enjoyed it so much. I think I haven't laughed this much. It's on podcast since my co-host Jane Ann. I had Jane Ann.
And I wasn't even being funny.
You know why? Alive in your heart. We want to be. Do you remember Lazarus? He was dead, and then Jesus came, and he had died, and he came alive. And maybe you're sitting at home and you're going like, I want to be full of joy. I want to do something in this world. We sure need it in this world. So think about volunteering for Mary. Think about what is God actually calling me to do for myself. Because when you're in the job you like, there's joy abounds. And I feel like it was a great show. I'll see what Pat says. We love to have you. We'll see you when we're down in Florida sometime. Terrell moved to St. Augustine. We'll come see you. And so may God bless the people that are listening. And also, this is Ellen Mongan from Wow Mom. Take a pause. If you hear it and you think it's God's voice, test the spirit. But if it's something that fits along with the word of God, you go with it. You do whatever he tells you and you come alive each day. There's no boring here.
No.
May God be blessing you. May God bless you. I laugh so hard. I don't know why. I really don't. The joy of the Lord is our strength. And I got to find the right button. If y'all are wondering what I'm doing, I'm blind and I'm blind. She's pink and she's alive. Here we go. May God bless us both. And from Wow Mom, see you next time.